What is this? What's happening?
We are getting a divorce.
Don't do this.
No. No. I gotta say, I could have called this one. No. Yeah.
Is it our fault?
Is it because we were bad?
I cannot stress this enough. It is not your fault.
Whose fault is it? Oh, fuck, I wanna fucking know. Yeah. Here comes the Joust.
Good evening and welcome to the Joust. My name is Naggy. I'm here once again with my Irish rogue of a co-host, Mr. Liam McNeil. But just as we have another very special musical guest for you this week, please make him feel welcome, Mr. Neglected Lemon.
TCE leave me, can I come too? He can always stay.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Now, Liam, something I've always known about you is despite you really diving into a lot of, let's say, like frivolous media and whatnot.
Yes.
I like you.
It's the best kind of media, the frivolous media. We're members of the frivolous media.
Frivolous media, but like
we're the standard bearers of the frivolous media.
You like, the old sort of documentaries,
Love 'em.
YouTube, heavy on the YouTube. I don't know.
Fantastic platform.
If you were born before that, you would have been someone with a lot of VHS tapes of different things.
Either that or in a mental institution.
That or
yeah.
The naughties have really saved you
Yeah.
from the institution.
Put it this way, I was the kind of person who, instead of buying the Seinfeld DVD box set, I bought each season individually over the course of like a year.
That seems like more money.
It was way more money. It was the classic fallacy of the poor man.
Yeah.
Where it's a much smaller outlay.
Yes.
But over the course of the year, you spend more. It's the fallacy of the cheap shoes.
The cheap
the
shoes,
poor
yeah.
man will buy a $10 pair of shoes.
Of course, yeah.
He'll go through 3 in a year. The rich man
Yeah.
will buy a $100 pair of shoes.
R.M. Williams. If you
He'll
like,
have
yeah.
R.M. Williams for his life.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
They say it's a shoe for life. I don't know really how much, because they do say it's like, oh, it's a shoe for life, and then but they'll say they'll re-sole it and then everything, the elastics on the side, re-tag it, and I was like, this sounds like a new shoe. I don't know, maybe they're
does.
replacing the shoe.
It's the
bit by
shoe
bit.
of Theseus, of course. At what point has each part replaced itself in the shoe? Is it still the same shoe?
Is it still? When does the shoe cease to be the shoe?
the shoe that it was at
One-
the beginning of the shoe?
At one time? Maybe it's the same bit of leather. I don't know what they're hanging on to, but something's got to give.
How many cows do you think go into one pair of R.M. Williams?
Maybe just the leg of a cow.
Probably
I don't
not
know,
much
yeah.
because they're not very big and cows are huge.
Cows are the leather animal, aren't they? Well, you can probably get other types
You
of
get
leather.
snake skin,
Snake
alligator.
skin. Yeah.
You get human leather. I won't tell you where, but I've got a guy. I've got a fella.
You have to go there at night there and just a series of nods. Maybe it's out the back of an adult store.
No words are exchanged.
No, they say
it's
here's your human leather footsies for you. But
I think Ed Gein did that.
Which was
He had
he
a
a murderer?
human book. Yeah, he was the murder man. No, I think he was more a grave robber.
Okay,
He dug the bodies up mostly and made a belt out of them.
Is that more ethical, would you say, to dig up the body rather than killing
Yes.
the person? Yeah, it is
Absolutely.
more ethical. It's much more
Absolutely.
ethical. And it's within the spirit, I think, of making the book.
It doesn't
of
let
the
it go to waste.
No, that's right. If anything, they're just sitting there on the ground. I
Yeah.
mean, they're dead. No one's going to be worrying about them. But you just have to push the dirt back over the grave. No one's
No
going to
one will know.
Does anyone know if
Who's
they're
going to
really down there?
graveyards anyway? Who's
don't know.
visiting these people?
Quite
Except their loved ones and their family members. Yeah.
quiet place. Yeah, it's always it's a sad thing, death, isn't it? Speaking of other sad things and more interesting things, Liam, it's time for that time once again. It's time for the news. Thank you, Neglected. Now, Liam, the story that has been so hard to avoid, you've seen it everywhere, it's on the phones, on the screens, people are talking about it.
It's on everyone's lips.
Water cooler
the upstairs
chat.
lips, the downstairs lips. It's on all the lips.
On the lips. It's on the
On the
chat.
it's on the chocolate lips down your behind.
Talking out your actual ass. But it is it was a story that really no one saw coming, especially at round 4 this year.
It is an odd time for this story to pop up, isn't it?
Yeah,
Maggie?
yeah. I thought this is something you might see mid-year, but no. Round 4, Daly Cherry Evans has decided that he simply won't accept a new contract from Manly. Now, I thought maybe accepting a contract elsewhere might be something that he might do. But this is just saying, I no longer want to play for the club that I've spent 15 years at.
If anything, that's more insulting. I think if he said to the club, I've signed another contract, I don't want to play for Manly, they'd say, oh, okay, we get it. That's all right. You were probably offered more money.
Basically.
Instead, he's just saying, I don't want to play for this club.
Yeah.
I don't care if I don't get a job after it.
No, that's right.
It's very spiteful. He's like, I may go on the unemployment line.
Yeah,
I might end up in Centrelink.
That's right.
And that's preferable to playing for Manly, which I've been saying for years.
I hate my job so much, I'd rather be unemployed for this moment. I have insecurity as someone that is charging forward within his age into his later 30s. But Liam, if you think of DCE, because quite often they can't even say like one of the best. They always say he's a top 3 halfback and has been for so long. Is that where do you see DC fitting into the history of halfbacks? He's not up there with the Cooper Cronk.
Well, that's it. He's got such an interesting legacy because for so long when Queensland had the big three, the large three, of course, DCE was always that man on the outer. There was that Origin game where a couple of the big three were out.
Yes.
And DCE was somewhat anonymous and then didn't play Origin for years because the big three didn't like him.
Well, he did.
So it seems like his career is sort of a career of personality clashes and people didn't like him because as a rugby league player, he could string a sentence together. I never understood that.
Jackson Hastings, their very own, didn't like him. They had a run in there during the time at Manly and... But to be fair, of course, he might be actually a good judge of character, DCE. He decided famously to do a bit of not a front flip, but a back flip on a deal when he first was talking about leaving Manly back in 2016. And then, thank you. Oh, no,
it's a Gold Coast Eagles shit.
Sorry, it was on 2015. It was talking about 2016.
So you were right twice. You were 2 times right.
I like to just fire as many bullets as I can. Eventually, I'll hit the target. Thank you very much, Neglected. In the 4-year contract that he signed with
4 years,
Mr. Speaker.
4 years.
I believe that was around that $1 million mark again, and that was like, oh, hello, 2015, $1 million. And then he said, no, actually, I've shaken hands. I don't like the heat that I'm getting from this. Manly's come back to the table and said, 4 years, how about 10 years? 10 years.
It says 8 years there, Naggy.
8 years.
Yeah.
8 years. That was extended to possibly 10, because remember this point, this is 10 years ago, and everyone said, he might not be able to play 10 years. Wrong! He just continued to truck on.
And of course, this led to one of the great front pages in newspaper history. If we could get our buttons man to look it up, it was the Courier Mail.
Yeah.
They had Photoshop. And again, this is 10 years ago. Photoshop maybe was still in its infancy. I don't know. The Courier Mail photoshopped Daly Cherry Evans' head onto a New South Wales Blues Origin jersey.
Classic.
And said he's a filthy pardon my language, cockroach. When realistically, it didn't have anything to do with his State of Origin legacy or his, loyalty to the Queensland jersey.
Nothing to either, really.
It was such an odd thing to put on there. So many of Queensland's greats, especially in the early days, through necessity, of course, did play in New South Wales.
Yeah.
And they didn't get any of the stick, the guff that Daly Cherry Evans got there.
They simply
said...
the
Gold Coast Bulletin. They gave him guff.
They said, you're full of guff.
They questioned his trust, his honour, his integrity.
Despite being...
That's not like the mainstream media.
He is a Queenslander, and they said, you've turned your back on Queensland to play in the place that you live. That happens to be New South Wales, so therefore you must be a filthy blue. And I think there might have been another one that was like day in, day out or something. Daily in, daily out.
You're taking your daily cherry.
Sorry,
Sorry, let me quickly read off the front page there. Trust, honour, integrity. It's the Maroons' creed with a disgraceful back. They've crammed a whole article on the front page of the Gold Coast Bulletin. That notable... That very well reputed mainstream media.
I think they've gone fully. I think they've gone online now. I don't know how they still print. I
still say print media is going to make a comeback.
It's coming back. Yeah. What else can you read on flights?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't Kindle. You can't Kindle the stories. So this has that same sort of feeling where he's basically said, I don't want to continue playing for this club. I think everyone expected that he would just extend for a year, and then eventually retire. And people were quite happy with that. But now we have this feeding frenzy of potential clubs that he might end up in.
Yes.
And we don't really know where this might land. Because not only being 36 years old at the moment, But next year, obviously 37th. But he's after a 2-year contract, as it's rumoured. By the time that clicks around, he's going to be 38 before he touches a Steeden.
But given his remarkable longevity and the fact that at 36 he's playing some of his best football, and not only that, I think what a lot of people don't realise is his availability is absolutely remarkable in the context of a 14-year rugby league career.
Yes.
He misses very, very few games for the Manly Sea Eagles.
Out of the 330 plus games he's played, I think he's missed 20 throughout his entire career.
That's not a lot.
Not a lot. No.
Not a lot. It's
for half,
it's more than none.
Well, we remember we tried to put him akin to say Mitchell Pearce that came for the Knights, but did 2 10-week injuries when he was here for these 4 years.
Yeah, he snapped his tits off.
Snapped the tits clean off. They were flipping and flopping. They were, one hit someone in the crowd, slapped him in the face like a wet noodle. But Cherry Evans, where is he going to land? Liam, if you were a betting man, if you were putting money on the line, and you said,
well, Naggy, and now we go back to our tinfoil hat from last week. I sent Naggy a message and I said, Naggy, let's crack open the tinfoil hat again. And I said, this is a great thing that I've thought of alone. I thought he's going to the Roosters because, of course, we know that over the course of the off-season and last season, they shed a lot of players without bringing anyone in, of course. Maybe did Uncle Nick, famously the foreigner, cross the bridge, go up to the peninsula and tickle Daly on the balls and say, hey, buddy.
Tick him on the cherries.
Just maybe don't sign. Maybe don't sign. I've got some fellas going out the door. No one's coming in the door. And then just said, I'll leave it at that. I've got guys going out. I've got no one coming in. I'll see you later.
To be the counterpoint to that, Liam.
But then, of course, it turned out that I was my great theory, my great idea. Every other rugby league talking head had proposed that idea before I did.
Well, if he chooses not to go to the Roosters, or the Roosters don't have a deal on the table, I still think they are over the salary cap and they're panicking in a freefall. If this happens to be all part of their master plan, they're sort of going back and thinking, how can we win a premiership? What did we do last time? We signed a really old halfback for 2 years and got ourselves 2 premierships. Let's do it again.
And then, of course, 2013, they signed a fairly old Sonny Bill Williams for, was it 1 year? Won a premiership, did it again. They just seem to do it. They just do it, don't they?
They like to bring
God damn them. God damn them to hell.
But if we compare even ages of the very, very successful Cooper Cronk, I think anyone can cast any aspersions over the man. As far as I believe, he played in his career more grand finals than he didn't. In every it was like he played for 15 years.
There was 3 in a row at one point. Was it 4 in a row?
16 years, 9 grand finals, something like that.
It's too many for one man. It's greedy.
He won one at the Storm in 2017, then went 18-19 at the Roosters with new colours. Everyone said he can't do that.
And was he in the stripped premiership years as well?
Of course.
Of course. We don't speak about it. Well, we do speak about it.
We speak about it all
Melbourne
the time.
Storm fans speak about it. They celebrate it openly.
They do.
And why shouldn't they?
Well, they say they took the trophy away from them. The trophy's already gone. It's already at a new place.
It's called a perennial trophy. It gets handed from one team to the next.
Yeah.
But remember when we were our dear friend of the show, Billy Peden. We got to hang out with Billy and the Provan Summons Trophy. There's one that is the trophy that goes from team to team. But there's also the one that is cast for the team.
Yeah, okay, so there's 2.
Out there in the world, there's at least 24 Provan Summons trophies.
Yeah.
All of them accounted for because we know who won them.
So what do they do with the 2 that they gave to the Storm? They took them back and they were in storage, I imagine. Or maybe they reissued them.
You'd think so.
Or maybe the ones that...
But you know what it might be like? When, of course, there was plans towards the end of World War II for the US and the Allies to invade Japan.
Of course, yeah.
The estimated casualty count was so high that they...
decided to drop the bomb,
So, because what happened? The estimated casualty count was so high, that they basically you don't build a medal. They basically
cast a medal?
Cast several hundreds of thousands of Purple Heart medals, which of course are for suffering an injury in a war. But they were still giving those out towards the end of the global war on terror.
Recently,
these were medals that had been cast in World War II. And they're still using them. I think that's what they're doing with the Provan Summons Trophy.
Efficiency.
They're like, we've got a couple in the up the bum that we can save for later and hand out later.
We can, I tell you what, just like taking the bodies out of the graves, it's efficient. You've only got limited resources, limited Purple Hearts, limited bodies. So if you're using them again, it turns out everything will work out all right. And
rugby league as a game is not known for efficiency when it comes to its officiating, when it comes to its
money spending,
governorship, when it comes to the way the games run. Efficiency is a dirty word in rugby league.
We head over there to Vegas every year, spend a lot of the members' money or the broadcast deals.
It's all about the money.
The hand thing means money. So, Liam, if I'm putting you think the Roosters... Oh, 1 second here. Hello, Joust.
Hi, this is Scott Penn from the Manly Seagulls.
Yes.
I was just hoping I could offer $200,000 more for DCE if I could.
Thank you very much. We'll pass it on to DCE. It's so they've upped the deal, Len. They've gone from $700 a season to another $200,000
In
a
this
season.
cost of living
Yeah.
crisis, in this economy, in
Yeah.
this day and age, that's pocket change.
Pocket change.
$200,000. I beg of you, Scott Penn.
He won't take that.
If anything, that's an insult. That's even worse.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it would have been worse for him to offer the extra $200,000 than to have had the $200,000 on the initial offer.
1 second. Yes, it's Joust.
250?
250,000. Thank you. So we got
A spit in the face, $250,000.
An additional $250,000,
No.
and I believe a 1995 Corolla they've thrown in as well. They're
You know what
really
Daly-
stretching.
You know what Daly said though? It's a Tarago or it's nothing. He wants that Tarago.
Are people still making Taragos? 1 second. Mate. Yes.
95 Corolla?
95 Corolla.
All right, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's
We have
pretty
to,
good.
I think they'll probably go for that. They're Isaac Moses.
Does it come with a year of rego paid?
That's
That's it. Is this a registered 1995 Corolla or not?
It's well, I suppose it's a classic car now. You know, you can register a classic car for basically nothing, and a classic car now.
Does my 2004 CRV qualify for a classic car
It'd
status?
be approaching there. I think it's up there. I think it might be 25 years as a classic car.
That was one of my dad's master strokes. We had a 2000, I think, and 7 CRV, and Dad traded in for a 2004 CRV because that was the last year they made them in Japan. Then they moved manufacturing away.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I think Cherry Evans is going to go to
Japan.
Japan, of course, play Japanese rugby. No one's thought
They'll
of that.
make a lot of money.
Possibly the Bulldogs, though, Liam. I think he might have the Bulldogs. I think they're going to let Toby Sexton, the little ugly gremlin, go out to pasture. And, well, he's not a handsome man, let's be honest.
His eyes are very close together.
He's not the most conventionally handsome fellow.
The Boom Rookies brought up an interesting point. Great podcast. Have a listen. Toby Sexton's kick meters for the game on the weekend were more than 1 kilometre.
Yeah.
Great podcast. They do good numbers. 1 kilometre.
Would you
He
sell
kicked for more than.
Is that selling your soul a little bit, Liam? To let your halfback that's up and coming, improving every week, let him go to bring in a someone that is only going to play for a maximum of 2 years?
Now, I think it would be part of a very good succession plan for Matt Burton.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
obviously Matt Burton's still, I wouldn't say he's new to 5'8". He's been doing it for a couple of years now, but he's
of
getting
years.
better and better every year.
Just needs
So if you give him 2 years maybe side by side with Daly Cherry Evans,
an X's and O's man. if
X's
you
and
will.
O's, man, he could turn into something. And I think Toby Sexton's probably the kind of guy
Hugs and
who
kisses.
you could hang around in reserve grade and he would have a very solid couple of years in reserve grade. He's still young, Toby Sexton. He's
25, I think.
25 maybe.
Wheel
Yeah,
him
sure,
out,
why
yeah.
not? Wheel him out.
Yeah.
So I think the Dogs would be a good one. The Titans, which I
Titans,
believe...
Which would be ironic if he went there, obviously.
Well-
the irony would be thick.
See, the thing about...
It'd be the front flip. That'd be backflip the first time and he front flip back into the Titans.
See, the thing about the Gold Coast, because it's such a transient population, no one who lives in the Gold Coast or is in the Gold Coast administration
Now,
was
they-
actually in the Gold Coast
No,
10 years
they've
ago
all
when he
moved.
did the backflip.
Moved
It's
on.
an entirely new population of people.
You would
Now-
say potentially, Liam, that the Dogs going for someone like Cherry Evans over their halfback that they're working up, he's getting better every week, is not within the spirit of the game.
It's
Now, the
not.
spirit of the game was questioned, Liam, this week with Josh Curran. Curran? Yeah,
Josh
probably,
Curran,
It's probably not Curran.
It's
is it?
Curran, mate.
Josh
Curran.
Bible.
He's Josh Bible over there, and he he was. Now, some people may have seen this and thought, "Hang on a second, this is a bit strange," because it looked initially from the footage that he was being.
I thought it was a dissent penalty.
well,
I thought he'd
effectively, yeah.
said a whoopsie to the referee.
Well, he was standing by the referee, well, sort of, certainly not in any involved in the play, standing beside him and just shouted out, you're off, stay off. And just,
You're offside, stay offside.
Stay off.
Just to clarify for the listeners, he wasn't yelling that someone's off
Get
the
off.
field.
No, you've got,
He's yelling, you're offside, you're offside.
offside. And then they took advantage of that. And the ref said, hang on a second, that's a penalty. And then everyone said, what for? He said, not within the spirit of the game.
Which
Now-
for too long, Nagy, the spirit of the game has been unneglected and hasn't been enforced. It's so good to see that the enforcement of the spirit of the game is back.
Yes.
Now, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Things that are outside the spirit of the game are funny.
Yes.
And I don't care what anyone says. There's a number of things outside the spirit of the game. And
Yep.
we alluded to a few of these pre-show, Nagy and I.
Third
but
man in, I think, is not
Third man in, classic.
is not within the spirit of the game.
Testicles, anything to do with the testicles.
You
not
can't
with
grab
the spirit of the
them
game.
fondling testicles. The testicles
At the
are
same
off.
time, though, funny.
It's funny.
But outside the spirit of the game.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not the genital area. Obviously, Jonathan Opawade
Yep.
has made that very clear.
It was the bum.
With
that
the
one.
bum, yeah, they
the
were
bum.
showed the
That
bum.
one's not funny.
Not funny.
Well,
Not
it was
funny.
kind of funny at the time.
It was,
but it's not.
It's looked back on as with sort of more humour than it did at the time for those poor players.
It's an
of the Cowboys.
undeserved humour.
Yeah, straight up, again and again. He seemed like he loved it.
It's his
so
favourite hobby. funny.
So that wasn't within the spirit
No.
of the game. Maybe catching the ball with your foot, kicking the attacking player, the defending player in the face. Not that's a Billy Slater.
Yep.
Billy Slater, of course, is far.
Would
from
you
the
say
spirit.
that Billy Slater is the patron saint of playing outside the spirit of
The game, yeah, he's really
But
set
his
the
also
boundaries,
weren't
yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Like catching the ball in the air and kicking David Clemmer in the face.
Yeah.
Not funny.
Not funny.
So
No.
you can, I guess, split things that are against the spirit of the game into humour
Yeah.
and non-humour against the spirit of the game.
If
Kicking
we're-
in the face, not funny.
funny.
Grabbing a ball, very funny.
Quite funny. Probably Josh has managed to get himself on, as far as it's not being in the spirit of the game, it's been called out, but it is sort of like, I can sort of see it happening. But a
Yeah.
little bit clever. He's a little bit cheeky. Is cheekiness back into the spirit of the game?
It bloody better be.
I thought we were built on cheekiness.
But then, of course, there are things that are wrong,
Yes.
but are in the spirit of the game. So we've got, of course, things that are outside the spirit of the game,
Yep.
but are funny.
Yep.
Things that are wrong
Wrong.
in the game, but are in the spirit of the game. Greatest example, Kai Pearce-Paul's shoulder charge to the head.
That's right,
It was
in the
straight
spirit of
up,
the game, yeah.
arm tucked, shoulder to the head.
Yes.
Is it legal?
Yeah.
No. Is it in the spirit of the game? Yes.
It's-
Absolutely.
It's certainly a funny game when you look at you're desperately trying to hurt the man and really cause injury. You
Yeah.
want to tackle someone and cause them injury until they're injured, and then it goes without the spirit of the game. Hurting them to a point without a significant permanent injury seems to be the line.
I had a former coach when I had my brief flirtations with playing first grade, and
Yes.
at the start of the season, he brought in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I think is what he did. And he said to us at the start
Just
of
a
the season...
jiu-jitsu? He
Yeah,
brought
he
in
said-
was it a person or was it a...
It was he brought
A
in
concept.
the discipline of Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Okay, brilliant,
Now, he
yeah.
brought in this BJJ guy to train us in the dark arts of the ruck. And he
Yes.
said, all right, boys, we're not seeing rugby as a contact sport anymore. It's a combat sport.
Combat
I was
sport.
like,
Oh,
Jesus.
hello. Would they teach you anything to say choke the man out? Or did
Well,
they...
what they taught us, I would
break
say,
the
weren't in
arm?
the spirit of the game, but were quite legal.
Yeah.
Which, again, falls into that dichotomy. Within the spirit of the game?
Yes.
No. Within the legalities of the game? Yes.
I think this is probably the one that pops up the most, and there's most opportunity for players to do this, but it's definitely not within the spirit of the game, and that's when someone gets up to plant their hand to get up. They plant their hand to get up to play the ball, and you get to step on the hand.
Yeah, you
but
can step
that's
on the hand.
not within the
No.
spirit of the game. The studs on the boot is really a dictator of what is in and out of the spirit.
What about a lick?
A lick on the face?
A lick on the face.
I don't know. I have to see it happening.
I have. It was great. It was in an NHL game. Brad Marchand, formerly of the Boston Bruins, the biggest rat maybe in the history of hockey. He licked one of his opponents on the face.
Yes.
And the guy tried to fight him. It was very funny.
Maybe we can move.
Is that within the spirit of the game?
Well, maybe we can move from the handshakes at the end of the game to the licks.
Just quick kiss.
The quick kiss. Well, like the Scotty Prince on Benji Marshall. Benji
Or was
Marshall
it
and
vice
Scotty Prince.
versa?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
They were kissing a lot back then. 05 was a very
If you don't kiss
loving
your
time.
mates, you're gay.
Pierce,
I don't care
Caleb
what
Pong.
anyone says.
Mitch and
Oh,
Mitch
yeah.
Biz came Pong, a bit of a kiss. Maybe throwing a lick there. You've already got the lips there.
Yep.
Just put the tongue out. Bit of a lick. You
As
know.
that fondle of the balls comes back into play all of a sudden.
COVID's finished, except for our producer Pom, who's not here because of COVID. But the COVID is over. But maybe there should be some more licking.
More swabbing of fluids is in the spirit of the game.
Yeah. Liam is speaking about the leaders of our very own Newcastle Knights team. Jaden Brayley, the boy that looks like a Marine. He has a square jaw. He looks like a leader. He was the captain of the club, and now he's going.
I would say Jaden Brayley is the epitome of playing within the spirit of the game.
I think so.
He
yeah,
is
yeah.
a man of great integrity.
Yeah, yeah.
He is a man who would not even flirt with playing outside the spirit of the game.
No.
And as a result, he hasn't had a great career due to injury.
Injury.
Is that a
Injuries.
sign that playing within the spirit of the game is a fool's errand?
Possibly. If we look at his stats there, Liam, surprisingly, he had 3 years with the Cronulla Sharks, playing 19...
Which is not many compared to how many he had with the Knights.
I think it's his 6th, and if we look at those, unfortunately, he's still played more for the Sharks than he has for the Newcastle Knights, despite double the years. It's often said that our much beloved Kalen Ponga is a player that is paid too much and always injured. However, we might need to look further down the list at very own Jaden Brayley, that has been on quite an exciting salary, you would say, and simply hasn't lived up to it. He scored more tries for the Cronulla Sharks in those years than he has for the entire time that he's been at the Knights.
But I think it's one of those ones we'll look back and we'll say, it wasn't a great contract. He didn't have a great tenure at the Knights. But I think that would be to ignore his contributions off the field. He was named club captain the second he got here.
Yep.
And from all accounts off the field, as a leader, he's been wonderful.
Wonderful.
And so while I think we will look back on it as it was a bad contract.
A what if, you think it will?
A what if, a bad contract. I don't think it will be viewed as such as a reflection of Jaden Brayley, the man.
The man.
As a reflection of
The
Jaden
spirit.
Brayley, as a numbers rugby league situation.
Not good.
Not great.
Very not.
But as a reflection of a character who played rugby league for the Knights, I think we'll look back and say, yeah, we broke even.
The want was there, but of course we had 2 ACLs and an Achilles tendon, just to throw it in the mix.
And I think we can...
Disgusting.
And from what I gather from insiders at the club, which is us,
Yes.
he has been highly influential on young Phoenix Crossland becoming arguably the Form 9 of the last 3 years.
And that's the man that we've put our money behind is Phoenix Crossfield Bomberland. I think we've got a photo of him there, looking very ominous with his curly hair. He's really got the part down the middle. You don't see that very often these days.
I wish we saw it more.
No.
But I think we'll farewell Jaden Brayley fondly. We'll say on your horse, Jaden, but we'll pat the horse and say don't rush
Ricky
because you'll
Stewart,
fall off and break your arm.
whoever's doing the recruiting there at the Canberra Raiders does a very easy job. They said we need a hooker. What have the Knights got at the moment? Let's go. Let's buy him.
They've still, of course, got Tom Starling
Tom
on the
Starling
books. Still,
there.
of course, got Danny
Danny
Levi
Levi.
on the books. Simi Sasagi on the books.
Yeah.
Zach Hosking was a Knights junior. They've got on the books.
They love it.
Miles Martin, Knights junior. They've got on the books.
They love the
Pasami Solo, Knights junior. They've got on the books.
soul man.
Hudson Young.
Hudson Young,
Young.
from the area, still on the books.
They love it. From the area.
He's from the area.
From the general
Did he ever
area.
play Knights juniors?
No, he's a Belmont boy.
Belma
No,
boy,
he's Maitland.
Yeah, the Maitland of the lake.
Brankston.
Brankston, Belmont of
The Belmont of the Hunter
Of the
Valley.
Valley, yeah.
Look, let's be honest. Everywhere is the somewhere of the something.
Mm.
So they straight up and down. But yeah, I think he'll bring. I don't know why they did it. Tom Starling's pretty good now,
Yeah, he's pretty
and he's
good.
young. He's got a lot
He's
ahead
off
of him.
contract.
Oh,
Yeah, who knows?
okay.
Oh,
But he's
hello.
kind of like that spark plug thing.
Yeah.
Like Tom Starling's like the guy you put on after 30 minutes.
That's
whereas
right.
Jaden Brayley's, get hurt and not
But
play.
then, but then of
not play
course,
for 2 years. Yeah.
but then of course, the forgotten man in all of this, who was a highly touted signing for the Knights. We haven't seen much of him. Of course, you got Matt Arthur.
Matt Arthur, yeah.
I think the release of Brayley is a timely release. It's a needed release, but it's one I think both parties will look back on and say, yeah, sure, why not?
We'll shake Jaden's hand and hopefully not break it.
Please don't shake his hand.
So thank you very much, Jaden Brayley, for your service. Now, Liam, we have to make an official apology on behalf of the podcast.
And
say-
a retraction, an apology and a retraction.
So thank you very much for the outcry of the Newcastle Knights fans.
The groundswell of support was really quite endearing.
The march down Hunter Street, we
March.
really enjoyed to say
We
bring,
wish it hadn't descended into a riot.
Of
but
course,
it did,
it had
of
to,
course.
we got that Star Hotel feel to it. There was
Yeah.
a few cars being flipped, and I think there was maybe 3 injured. But they said we must bring the Joust boys to their rightful place at CEO of the Newcastle
Yep.
Knights. And unfortunately,
their
we
office there in the keg room at West Mayfield.
we had to say, thank you so much for that support, but we have to officially
We're
decline.
busy.
We're busy. We've got a lot going on. Yeah, we've got
I'm
that.
tired sometimes.
Obviously, our work with the 1 second. Hello, Joust.
I was just going to ask you about that Knights job. If you wanted that Knights job still,
I'm
we've
sorry,
still
we
got that
can't
night.
accept.
We're
the,
busy.
We can't accept.
We've
We
got
really,
it
want,
on.
we really want you for the night.
Phil, sorry, we simply cannot accept.
My
Please,
weekends,
boys.
weekends are pretty tied up for the next few months.
It's a lot going on, but I think it's gone to the next, and we can only bestow our support for our very own Jiggly Jowls, Peter Parr, to
Of
take
course,
the
Peter
position.
did reach out to us.
Yeah, he said,
and he asked for advice. He asked our blessing.
He said,
Of course,
yeah.
he said, obviously, you Jousters have been
He said,
given the not
green
the
light.
nod. You've been the handshake
yeah,
deal.
yeah, and we
And
said,
he said, do I have your blessing, Jousters? We said yes.
He said, with no
And then
hard
he-
feelings, Peter, please take it, being our silver medal. We know you will do an adequate to good job, somewhere in between there. He seems like a beloved figure there at the club, Peter Parr, the Jiggly Jowls man. And I think that he is going to be just what the Knights needed. Now, this is possibly the biggest change since we saw Nathan Tinkler take over unceremoniously with his oligarchy, billionaires, I think running the club almost into the ground. And just
Putin-esque.
pulling up,
perhaps.
I think if we look at Tinkler as Putin, maybe Peter Parr could be our very own Tony Blair.
But honestly, let's be quite let's be quite upright about it. We have a great track record for officiating at rugby league clubs. Peter Parr's track record
Wonderful.
as an administrator at rugby league clubs is really very, very good.
Very good, yeah.
And Naggy, I wanted to ask, you're a very close personal friend of Phil Gardner, of
Uncle
course,
Phil,
long long-term West's employee.
Yes.
You know him well.
I was his right-hand man for a
his
many
right-hand
times.
man.
Sometimes left-hand man as well, depending on which side I stood.
Is this some sort of a reverse power play from Philip?
Yeah, Philip's a very wise man. He's been at the helm for a long time, and I think at this point, rather than going down with the ship, he said someone else can steer, which was good of him as a leader. You know, he looked after so many employees there as CEO. He was the uncle to us all, and you know, when you have that big of a family, sometimes people get neglected.
Do you think Phil desk-topped his decision, Naggy?
If I'm going to remember things of Phil Garner's reign over the Newcastle Knights, he
Just
did.
ducking back. Can we duck back quickly,
Yeah,
Sam,
yeah.
to this picture previous to this?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a man who really benefited from a mustache.
yeah.
That's a man who
Vacant lip.
desperately needs a mustache.
Is it his top
That's
teeth
it,
that
it's
we
a-
can
yeah,
see,
it's a
or is
lip-
it his bottom teeth that we
It's
can
a lip
see?
just crying out for some hair on it. Anyway, but now your experiences with Phil, your close personal friend.
yeah,
Is this a
Phil.
reverse power play from Phil?
Possibly, I don't know. Maybe he's leveraging for a greater position. Maybe he's going to be Lord Mayor of Newcastle. We're not really sure.
Remember when Tinkler came, I said Tinkler should be Lord Mayor, and thank
did.
God he wasn't. I mean, he would have done a better job than Nuatali, but still.
Oh, hello.
I don't pay attention to politics. I just saw people angry at her on Facebook. Going, hey, I'll go with that.
Phil Garner is remembered, I think, for a few things. Obviously, coming after the Tinkler years, they took over the club with a much
It was a
needed
heck
funding.
of a mess to clean up.
It was a big mess to clean up, and they brought in Nathan Brown to
Who left
coach.
a heck of a mess to
Who
clean
cleaned
up.
But after the sacking of Nathan Brown there in the end of 2019, Phil fronted the media very bravely and said, "Don't worry, I've desk-topped a list of potential coaches, and that being Adam O'Brien." So we haven't seen a tremendous amount of chaos. If anything, has been pretty much after the doldrums coming. We've only trended sort of upwards and plateauing there at 7th or 8th.
And notably, we haven't seen desktop used as a verb.
Verb, that was
since.
never seen. It was only say what you will about Phil Garner, but he can throw out a verb like nothing else. We're going to come back with everything covering the Titans game. I'm sure we're all excited to hear about that, but to play us out to half time.
I'm so excited I can poo.
Please, welcome back is Mr. Neglected Lemon.
I'm bored. I'm chairman of the board. I'm a lengthy monologue. I'm living like a dog. I'm bored.
Yeah, bitch.
We got Gold Coast fingers. We got Gold Coast fingers.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Welcome back to the second half of the Joust for the very first time. Now, Liam, I've known you long enough to know when the Newcastle Knights, our beloved team, the team that we love, the team that we adore, as part of the town, as part of the culture, it's embedded in us.
And we are embedded in it.
We are
Yeah.
part of an ecosystem that one relies on the other, otherwise the whole thing collapses. That you really don't like talking about games that we lose horribly.
It was just one big turkey slap of a game, wasn't it? It was terrible.
We got
And we watched this game on the electric telephone, Naggy,
We
of
did,
course,
we
via
did.
a telephone link up.
Yeah.
Hated it. Hated every second of it. Didn't enjoy a moment. I think there was a brief moment where the teams ran out. Maybe we had a little laugh, like, "Oh, this is going to be a fun night in our lives."
I think we both were quietly not confident. I think there was a sense of dread over the.
There was an air of an impending demise. There was a doom.
like organ failure. Yeah, like it was all going to come crashing
the
down.
silent killer.
Yeah, I think just a brief overview of the game. What I wasn't ready for is such a composed Titans team that would still make mistakes and then continue playing pretty controlled football.
Well, I think now, and we're going to talk about the inadequacies of the Newcastle Knights in the context of this game in a moment. And I don't mean to sort of excuse the Knights' terrible performance.
Yes.
But the thing about the Gold Coast is that no one gives a shit about them.
That's
The thing
true.
about the Gold Coast is they've actually quietly got quite a good
Quite a good
team.
team, yeah.
And I think now that they're playing teams who people do care about and people are watching their games,
Yep.
people are going to start to see they're actually pretty damn good.
It was one of those. It was a lose-lose for us. We beat the Titans. No one cares. We lose against the Titans. People say, "What? What happened?"
Yeah.
No one was watching.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Terrible.
yeah. I think the kind of feeling of dread was over the top of us. Of course, with the the ghost of Brownie's past that happened to be there, of that feeling of we haven't won up there in a very long time. But there was also this feeling
It's a
of
brown stain on the whole club, isn't it?
there was also this feeling that the kind of success that we had against the Dolphins, where the passes were hitting the hands, everything was going really well, we were making line breaks, we were scoring tries, that maybe couldn't continue on against a good team. Now, I thought this might happen against the Bulldogs. I thought we might beat the Titans, go up against the Bulldogs, and then everything falls to pieces. But we fell to pieces early fall, and had the complete collapse.
Some would say that's the better fall. Because again, we've discussed the hope of it all, the concept of hope. If the hope is sucked out of it immediately, then the rest of the game is just one long wet fart.
It seemed early on that it was still possible going into half time with a 12-0 score. It didn't seem like it was too far out of reach. However, the penalty goals to Jaden Campbell right before half time, and then another one just after half time, both Firma tries seemed like a try that we had seen, which hurt again, Bo Firma, former Newcastle Knight.
They're everywhere.
It seemed like, that a try that we were used to seeing back in like 2017, 18, we'll throw games away when someone should be held before the line and then the arm gets stretched out and it's a real highlight moment. But I thought the Titans still didn't play fantastic and they still beat us by a fair few points.
And I think that's a portent of things to come, that the rest of the competition should be maybe a bit concerned about the Gold Coast Titans of it all. There's a problem up there on the Gold Coast that I think a lot of teams are going to run into. You've got, Tino playing rugby league like he didn't have a year off.
Yes.
You've got, I think, both Moore, while I wouldn't rate him as one of the better back rows in the comp, given the depth that's available to the competition in the back row. He's a very good back row. You've got your David Fafitas of it all. They've got one of the most exciting young backlines in the comp, Keanu Kinney.
He's injured now. He's actually he's out for 3 to 5 months.
Damn. Really? I was actually looking forward to watching
neck
Keanu
surgery.
Kinney.
Neck surgery.
Oh. But anyway, you've got the Brimsons of it all. You've got the Fafitas. You've got Philip Sammy somehow does really cool things all the time.
Yeah.
I think the Titans are going to become a bit of a graveyard. Now, Naggy, you lived on the Gold Coast.
I did.
And Naggy, you thrived on the Gold Coast.
I did.
Naggy, you're the only person who has left the Gold Coast in a better place than you were before. You're the only person who has left not a husk of a human being, in debt, with a couple of baby mamas and broken marriages behind you.
Well,
what should the Knights have done to thrive in the Gold Coast? What did you do that they didn't?
It's a shell of a place, Liam. There's absolutely no industry up there. People just live for the fact that other people visit there, you see. And we accommodated the Titans by visiting there, and they said, well, you're in our playground now. This is what we love. We love when people come up here and visit, because otherwise there's absolutely no industry. There's just, they're building more houses for people to visit. That's all they have. Tall buildings filled with nothing. It's just more houses. No, it's a place that is culturally sort of void of all.
It's a black hole culture.
Excitement. Yeah. If anything, if you stay there, you move away from the main strip and you live on the outskirts. You're in the hinterland of the Gold Coast.
The hinterland of the Gold Coast is quite lovely.
Yeah, it's all hills.
Love the hinterland. Most hinterlands are good. I generally like a good hinterland.
Yeah.
The hinterland of the mid-north coast is one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Yeah.
Group 2 country. What place on earth could be better than Group 2 country?
What's the thing? Like, you're jammed into everything on the strip between there about Burleigh and Surfers Paradise.
There's a river.
There's a river, and then you go to the hinterland, and then it's much more sparse. It's almost like you don't live on the Gold Coast at all, and I think that's what people enjoy.
So the best thing about living on the Gold Coast is not living on the Gold Coast.
It's moving away from the Gold Coast. It's like buying a boat. The day that you buy it, the day you sell it is the best day. So we unfortunately went up to the Gold Coast, and we despite us having confidence from beating the Dolphins quite soundly, the problem that I
think there was a lot of promise from beating the Tigers while playing terribly. I think that was a bit of if we play badly,
we can pinch off a win, like a turd,
pinch one out, pinch off a loaf. But now usually we'd bring up numbers. Usually we'd look at a couple of different things. There's only one number to highlight this week, really. 67. Naggy,
67.
Fill me in the context of 67 and why this number is so maddening.
Completion rate.
Why
Liam,
am I infuriated just at the sight of the number 67, Naggy?
Completion rate, Liam. If we're not up there around that 80 mark, it's very hard to win a game. I've always said it's very hard to win a game if you make 10 or more errors. We made 18.
Which is almost double 10 or more.
We tried to make as many errors as we could, and of course that reflected in our completion
rate. Which is very un-Adam O'Brien. We've seen that Adam O'Brien's style of footy is high completion. Grit and grind, and finally X Factor to win the game. But if we complete poorly, you don't grit and grind. No. Your X Factor can't win the game.
We were missing a few key members, not to make any excuses, but of course we missed them. both our back rowers. Dylan Lucas, who's an absolute star. He's a stud. We love him, and he wasn't there, and he's going to be out for the next few weeks. And of course,
really?
KPP, yeah, 6 weeks. Apparently he'll be out.
Shoot.
So obviously with the bye this week, and then we can move forward.
See, Kai Pierce-Paul famously suspended for playing within the spirit of the game.
Of
course, Leo Thompson was out as well.
Leo Thompson. So we're missing some big hitters there.
Where's his brother?
I think his brother. We literally have a backup.
Extended bench.
Yeah. He's very green sort of fellow coming from not his complexion, but coming from rugby union. Of course,
my complexion was green watching that Newcastle Knights game because I wanted to vomit all over myself.
I think early on in Leo Thompson's career, he might have let a ball bounce and go out off the kickoff, and he didn't know the rules.
Yeah.
And I think we might unfortunately have that with Tyrone.
It's two different games, of course,
Two
rugby
separate-
league and rugby union.
They're
Most
two-
people don't know this. Different games.
He might run on when there's 13 on, and we say, no, it's not 15.
It's
and
too many.
He says, I don't know. No one's told me the rules.
Why didn't anyone tell him the rules?
It's given
That should be the first thing.
You can probably rugby league's a simple game for simple men. You can probably catch the rules up in about 30 minutes of watching any game.
But now the thing that infuriated me, Naggy, and I'm going to come back to that 67% completion again. After I watched the game, I made the mistake of looking at Facebook. Now, Naggy, you love Facebook.
do.
You love going in the comments and arguing and
I try not to
throwing
anymore,
spicy barbs around. It was terrible for me, your mental health for years,
is,
getting in Facebook. But I was really surprised to see a lot of Knights fans saying that perhaps the Knights were refereed out of the game with some poor decisions against. I say, who gives a shit about poor bloody decisions against you if you can't hold on to the pill?
That's right.
The main thing of the spirit of the game is don't drop the football.
That's right.
The most spirituous thing you can do in a game of rugby league is to hang on to the pill.
Religious.
Just tuck it under the wing and have a go.
Yeah. That's what the King James was. That's basically chapter 4. I don't know if you read it, but it's hold the pill.
Leviticus. Hang on to it.
There is a certain... we couldn't get into the flow of the game. Everything just seemed disjointed. However, one statistic that might surprise people, I believe we had 5 line breaks. But
That does surprise me.
But for one try.
That's bad.
We got a little bit impatient. We were throwing the ball to try to get that, when we were needing points, we were still on naught, the score that no one wants to be on.
I still think it's better than getting 2, like that game last year against the Dogs. 32-2. That's worse than 32-0.
I think so too. Painful. But there was forward passes. There was 2 forward passes that led to tries that were pretty blatant forward passes. Really, you couldn't even argue with them. But you could see that the want of getting over White Line Fever, which is the sequel to Saturday Night Fever, it was straight to video. That we were travoltering towards the line and couldn't quite get there.
Unfortunately, we were playing Battlefield Earth.
Instead of more of his much better films. Well, we were stuck in Look Who's Talking 3. And
What's that one? The Fanatic.
doesn't that look awful?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like Michael, the movie Michael with the Angels?
I mean,
That's a Channel 10 wonderful film. Thank you very much, Josh.
Yeah.
Users what you don't know, listeners what you might not know. Naggy has seen every movie.
No, you have seen no movie, so it
I've
makes it
seen
seem
some
like
movies.
you've seen 4.
I haven't seen Independence Day. You brought that movie up, Sam, earlier. I couldn't comment on it because I've not seen it.
Good grief! How have
All
you?
I said was it had
Either
an
one.
ending.
There's 2, but I didn't know that it had an ending because I haven't seen it. There's 2 of them. I haven't seen either.
How can you watch Channel 10 in 1998 and not see Independence
That's
Day?
because they were forever showing The Fifth Element.
That's right, The Fifth Element. Head of State.
Bruce Willis' finest movie.
Yeah,
Head of State, Will Smith, of course.
Will Smith,
Was that
yeah.
Enemy of the State?
Enemy of the State. That's the one.
The Last Boy Scout, they got to run.
Boy Scout.
It was like 11, 10, 30. Oh, coffee is hot, drink it slowly. Mercury rising.
Mercury Rises. I see all
Again,
these
this is
films.
just a list of words that I can't understand because I don't know the movies.
Taking us back to our horrid place, Liam, if we're going to be talking really about what we think about the game, we have to isolate players that we think we did well. It's very hard to do in a losing side, but we've got a couple in a segment we like to call Hats Off.
Hats off. Hats off. Hats off. Hats off. Hats off.
Hats off for this week for me. Liam comes to someone that's not a debutant, but he has that debutant feel. He's played a couple of games. He seems to be the one working his way into that first grade side. That's Tommy Carney. Boy, hope he can.
Tommy should. Tommy did. Tommy could, perhaps.
Now, watching him play, there was some. He got himself in a bad position at one stage. He dropped a ball, and I thought,
You
Tommy
can still see
can't.
rough edges where he's either running the wrong line or, he should be the receiver, but he misses it ever so slightly. There is still rough edges.
But these
I
stats
think-
just speak for themselves.
I think we're seeing enough from the boy to know that Tommy really will.
18 runs, 152 metres, 56 tackles, missing only 2. I think that is some incredible stuff for almost a bit of like the Druff when he came into the side.
It was a very Druffy performance, wasn't it?
Head and shoulders, knees and toes. Brody Jones, who was, of course, playing well above his weight there in the front row.
And of course, Tommy Ken is, he's that shining spark of a local junior that we've been wanting for years.
Through the system.
Local juniors are finally doing good.
Pushing through the
you're
system.
seeing Tommy Kant, you're seeing obviously the Fletcher Sharps, the Matt Crokers, the Dylan Lucas, who's not really a local junior, but I'll bet he's an honorary local junior.
From Scone,
It's bigger. It's bigger.
Oh, it's big.
Again, we've established.
Put bigger on a scone.
Yeah, bigger is the scone. Bigger is the scone of the southern bloody Highlands.
And the biggest spread on the scone. I was very, very close to
makers of the finest peanut butter in this earth.
Yeah, they just bought Kraft, like the Kraft peanut butter.
It was their patriotic duty to do so.
I think so.
Kraft said, "We're shipping our bloody peanut butter offshore."
Yeah.
And Bega said, "No, we're nationalising it." They nationalised peanut butter.
Yeah.
Good on them.
Give us a bag of peanuts, we'll do it.
I'm sick if we keep buying in our household these bloody expensive, fancy, natural peanut butters.
Yeah.
That's half oil. I've got to stir it before
Yeah.
I don't want to stir my peanut butter before I spread it on my toast.
It is only you.
I just want to dip my knife in. It's ready to go.
You say that we keep buying it. It's only you and your wife. You could probably.
She does the shopping.
She does the shopping.
And I would hate to interrupt her. There's a whole process. I don't want to get in the way.
Matt Croker was a bee's dick away from getting my hats off this week. I thought he had an excellent game there in the middle, playing well above his weight. Also,
the local junior, Nabiac boy.
Yeah.
Only thing that's ever come out of Nabiac.
But when we
good bakery.
When we take it,
they've got a bakery and they've got
two things, Liam.
They've got a bakery and they've got Matt Croker. That's about it.
When we take our hat off, we have to return it to our noggin. We got 2 this week.
That's
2,
gravity for you.
2 of our hats back on.
Yeah, you put your hat on.
I think there is maybe 13 Newcastle Knights players who can be happy that they didn't get a hats back on in
Very
this
lucky.
rugby league game.
They were lining up for it. They said, "Oh, please pick us this week, please, with the hats back on."
It's a prestigious award.
Oh, you hang it on the wall.
Joust hats back on.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. It comes in a certificate. It's not actually a medal or anything like that, but it's still nice to have.
It's not even a hat.
Liam, sorry, I'll start with mine. My
Yep.
hats back on is Adam Elliott. I thought there was one moment in the game where we had our best defensive set, and I really thought, hang on a second, we've turned the tide, we've swung the momentum, we've really got them on the walls here, on the walls. But anyway, we've hung them on the wall.
What are you doing there?
They can't move. We've jostled them. We've got them in a corner against the wall. But then Adam Elliott put a late hit on the kicker, and then they got the penalty, marched up, and then they end up scoring the both for
What
try.
a turning point.
It was a turning point.
It turned from the Gold Coast winning to the Gold Coast winning by
Well,
more.
that's
I don't think
basically
it's a turning point, actually. I think it's quite the opposite of a turning
It
point.
frustrated me. He certainly tried hard, but he was, again, playing in the middle in the 13 jersey. But I just thought, you idiots! And what have you done? So, Liam, you have a different hats
I
back on this
do,
week.
Naggy, I do. And again, there's a lot of fellas, could have been me this week. I think what we saw from Greg, and what we forget, Greg's had a.
This is Greg
let's
Mazieu
be
we're
honest,
talking
Greg
about,
Mazieu, the large bass, he's had a pretty sustained period of excellence over the last maybe. The last 8 months, perhaps, almost full season last year.
Yep.
But this was one of those good old-fashioned Greg shockers.
I think it was.
Where they just keep kicking at Greg, and Greg says, "I don't care for this. I don't give a shit about this."
He was targeted. He made a mistake. He had a big smile on his face a lot of the time, playing against his former club.
Yeah.
Really thought that he might step up and step out, and like Diana Ross said, "I'm coming out."
I want the world to know.
I think she was coming up.
No, I thought it was too, but it's out.
Out?
Yeah.
Out?
Yeah, I think
I'll
so.
check that, everybody.
We'll check.
Can we have the Boffins check that,
We'll
please?
check that coming
But
up.
yeah,
or
this
out.
was a bit of a vintage Greg game, and in the worst possible way. And though there was a couple of times he did catch the ball, Jaden Campbell has bricks for feet, and he kicks the ball really, really hard.
Yes.
Twice, I think he overkicked it. Greg took it in the in goal. I thought Greg can catch.
Yep.
And then a couple of times Greg couldn't catch.
Under pressure,
It was
couldn't do
very
it.
concerning. But I think, given Greg's, again, sustained period of excellence over the last while, he's allowed a stinker every now and again,
Yeah,
but don't let it happen again, Greg.
we don't want two
Let
stinkers.
this hat's back on. Bear heavy on your head.
Crack a window, let the air flow.
With his hair, he won't feel the hat. His hair's like a hat.
Like a hat. It's like a
headgear.
helmet.
It's like one of those old-fashioned Steeden headgears that Darren Smith used to wear.
placid.
That's what Greg Marjou's hair looks
That's
like.
right.
So he won't even feel the hat on the head. He won't notice.
Who knows?
He'll get the certificate.
He might get it in the mail, of course. Comes laminated. It's very. You have to sign for it at the door. You
Yeah.
get a package, you have to sign for something, but it's not even paper. You have to just do it with your finger. They just go, here's the screen, and then you put your finger on the screen, and then do somewhat of a signature. But
Exactly.
they don't. No one checks it. You can just say anything. You could write Moby Dick, and just take the package.
And then, of course, we have Adam O'Brien here in the press conference. He's farted. No one knows it yet. And he's like, well, they're going to pick up on
They're
it
going to
soon.
smell. It's another stink
It's
of a
going to hit him. It's
maybe.
going to hit him in a sec.
It's
That joke won't be funny if you're not watching the visual medium.
yeah, if you only got it on the audio. It's an interesting time for the Newcastle Knights. Obviously, we have the bye next
But just
week.
before we go into the bye, Naggy,
Yeah.
is this the kind of Newcastle Knights performance where we need to hang on to it and say, oh boy, this is a concern? Or is this the kind of Newcastle Knights performance where we just goldfish it? Just say, I don't know. No, I've forgotten about it already. It's in the past. Let's forget about it. That was terrible. And let's agree to never speak of it again.
They sort of play the style of football that is going to come with risks, and it's going to come with times where everything goes to shit.
Boom and bust.
It's going to be there's going to be some booms, going to be some busts, and at the times of the busts, we have to make sure that we're ready to defend the busts, and we weren't ready to defend the busts. That's
And
the
attack
problem.
the booms.
Attacks the booms and defend the busts. There were still elements of there. We were making line breaks, everything. It was just last passes and last choice options. Execution was off.
You know,
I still-
every French peasant's favourite pastime. Execution.
It was a wonderful spectacle. What are you doing today? I'll get up in the morning. I might go for a walk, and then I might
Got to
catch
chop a king's head off.
King's head off. Might catch the king's head.
It's in the King's Square.
hitting the
It's in
basket.
Town Square.
Yeah, it's named after him, and we're just going to rip out this rich man and
It's a
cut his
long
head
drop
off.
by a sharp blade.
So I think the Newcastle Knights have to stay steadfast,
Steadfast.
and continue on playing that style of football, because if we're coming up against a team next week like the Bulldogs,
No one. We're coming up against a team of no one.
this week, no one. Next week, next week's going to be the Bulldogs. The last game of we have the Marcus bye.
We've got the Marcus.
This week, guaranteed 2 points.
Well, again, for the Knights over the last many years, the Marcus has been one of the hardest rounds of all.
it's not an easy thing. We used to be a guaranteed 2 points, but now they have to jostle. They have to really consolidate. And
Now,
hopefully, they
one of the rugby league media's favourite thing to do when it comes into bye round and a team has lost the game is to say they should be training 24 hours a day through the bye round. Don't let them have fun. They can't
much.
get a day off. They're not allowed on holiday. They're not allowed to leave the training field.
Don't go
What
there.
do the Knights do on their bye round?
Bradman goes over to Bali and builds a house.
What did he build last time? Didn't he build a hospital?
Build something.
I think it was a shopping centre.
Over there in Bali, a house can be a hospital or a shopping centre. It really only takes 2 floors. Multi-purpose venue. 120 PowerPoints.
Yeah.
I know anyone.
It's gonna be. Obviously, we get over the bye. We got the 2 points. It's got to elevate us back up the ladder. Prime for a win against the Bulldogs, who will still have Matt Burton and Kikau out. Hopefully, with the signature of Cherry Evans, which I'm predicting, which might be a horrible call, but that might throw Toby Sexton to be like, hang on a second, I'm going to be out of a job. I have to line up at Centrelink. His mind won't be in the
succeed
game.
in rugby league when your eyes are that close together?
A double-barrel shotgun inspector.
Oh dear! Oh no! So they're up there. They're flying high at the moment. The Bulldogs. Hopefully they come down a few notches and we get them on low confidence. And we're at high confidence. We're coming off the bye, feeling fresh, but we're still going to be undermanned.
That's it. Other fans from other supporter bases, other teams, like we want to beat a team when they're at their best. No.
Beat them at the worst.
I want the Knights to play teams when they're at their lowest ebb and put a smacking on
Put
them.
us back. Look, the best.
Because so many teams did that to the Knights for so long.
We've got a really favourable. We've got a favourable schedule. I think you say draw is the word I was looking for. Thank you very much, Josh. And hopefully we can take advantage of that before we actually start playing some top sides. Liam, I really hope that we can beat the Bulldogs, and I hope that everyone down here. Where's my camera? I hope that we all are back here with us next week to preview the Bulldogs game as well as talk everything Newcastle Knights. Liam, thank you very much for joining us.
And thank you for joining us now.
And thank you all for joining us once again. But play us out. Our musical guest for this week, Mr. Neglected Lemon.
Ba-da-ba-da.